Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast channel. My name is Jed. How are you going? We are exploring this banger book that has helped us to unpack the difference between understanding and belief, and to discover how one is the excellence of being a human being with a capacity for self-reflection and language, and the other is the cause of all human problems. And what we've been doing is learning how to read learning how to discover this through learning how to read in a new kind of a way. There are certain techniques involved. The big one we've been using is, well, the two main ones we've been using, analogy, to organize and collect the terms within a hierarchically ordered structure, to see all of the aspects of belief, to see why it's the cause of human problem. And we can see that there is an analogical equivalent or similarity between that and understanding. So we're learning about the cause of problems and its solution, or what we are here to do as intelligent beings. By intelligent beings, we mean intelligent and self-aware. We have an awareness of ourselves so we can reflect upon ourselves. And we have the capacity to do that with language, allowing us to play the game of understanding. But the double-edged sword we are discovering is, well, if we have the capacity for understanding, we have the capacity for its shadow, which is, of course, well, it's imitation, belief. That's the issue. That's the problem. So our question is, as human beings, how do we overcome one and master the other? There we go. That's our purpose. But what we've been doing lately by organizing these is the other thing that analogy gives you, not just answers or the understanding of the parts and the wholes and how they relate within the parts and across the wholes, but it also surfaces, fan's not doing much work, it also surfaces the questions that we have, the things we have yet to discover, the puzzles we have yet to solve. And one of the big ones is, hang on a second, in a reality where there is a greater understanding and a lesser, with all of those parts and functionings and implications and conclusions, all the things we've seen about them, must there be a cause for that? For there to be a greater expression of something and a lesser expression of something, must there be a thing being expressed? And what's that? What's that if the greater expression of that thing is our peak experiences, enlightenment experiences, profound insights, dimensions of reality that are non-physical, levels of existence that are outside of time or beyond time? In other words, let's keep going. If that experience is the highest expression of beauty, what's going on? Oh, I'm gonna have to move that in a second. The highest, pause, hold. I changed my pictures behind me and I could see my other pictures. One's a koala, one's an anime that I like. I can't really see that one, so maybe I'm gonna change that one. It's not doing very good. Anyway, right. So, what a silly distraction. Come on.
I don't know if you know this, but like weird dudes exist everywhere.
Don't worry about it. Weird dudes exist everywhere. Right, Emma?
Honestly, I feel really inspired.
Thank you. So, outside of time, non-physical, the realm of being, the realm of the eternal principles, the model of physical expression, but also, hey, beauty itself. Those peak experiences are experienced as bliss. Most profoundly ordered the way it must be necessarily. Justice. The harmony of all the parts giving, and all of the other qualities giving rise to the model of beauty. In other words, if all of the words used to describe those peak experiences are literally the highest use of language that we have access to, beauty itself, justice itself, eternity, bliss, What is that the greater expression of? What's the thing? And of course, asking that question also, because we are dealing with an analogy, we have a greater and lesser. That same question we could equally apply to the lesser. Why are we stuck? If all of those things we described as greater, bliss, wisdom, knowing, eternity, if they're all so great, literally the greatest experiences, and not only that, the source of our goodness or benefit, and truth, the model of truth, if it's literally the greatest that we could ever describe or experience, why the heck are human beings so attached to the thing that fights against our development into that or our use of that? If understanding and its goals of wisdom are so great, why is belief so powerful? And what's that got to do with, the thing? So, if there is a thing that has a greater expression, what's that thing if it's beyond the greatest experience and the greatest descriptors of our language? And why is it that its lesser reflection has the power to enslave our souls and our species, cause our extinction, a loyalty to belief, and an allowing for belief to rule our souls, our relationships, our institutions, and our societies? That's the cause of death and destruction. That's the cause of our extinction. That's the cause of the destruction of the planet. Why are we so loyal to our beliefs? And what's it got to do with the thing it's reflecting? In other words, there seems to be two kinds of reflections, and they have power, both of them. The greater, the power to awaken us to what we do here. A lot of people will never become curious about philosophy until they've had a glimpse into a higher dimension. If all you know is the physical world of stuffs, then you might think that, well, life's about collecting all the stuffs, being a capitalist, being a billionaire, kill or be killed, dog eat dog. You might never, ever reflect on your beliefs, your way of thinking, the meaning of life, the nature of intelligence, and then self going through this process. So it can awaken us up to our true purpose, philosophy, or true philosophy, philodeinoia, love of understanding. But its lesser expression has the power to enslave our souls, bind our souls, and cause injustice. As we defend our false beliefs, the shadow of the greater, stuck in a cycle of, what's the axiom? Imitation, doing unto others what was done unto us. The very thing we are angry about, the injustice we suffered, we do unto others, and we defend our right to do so. Freedom! Right? When people who are ruled by belief, conservatives, capitalists, and the religious, talk about freedom, you usually have to ask a follow-up question. Freedom to do what, conservative? Oh, freedom to do slavery? Freedom of religion. Freedom to do what? Oh, brainwash children, abuse children, murder non-religious people, force your laws, force your false beliefs onto others through the law? Oh. Freedom to do what, capitalists? Enslave everyone, extract wealth, privatize profits, socialize expenses until the planet goes extinct? All of these things are only and ever false, the opposite of the true, harmful, the opposite of the good, and divisive. Conflict creating, the opposite of unity. While true, good, and unified or oneness, the descriptors of the greater. So this thing that we are wondering about, has to be beyond this greater, but also necessary for the greater and lesser. Somehow the lesser imitation of it, or the lesser expression of it, has a force over our souls, and our allegiance to that, as well as our inability to escape that allegiance to the lesser reflection of that, whatever that is the cause of all human problems. What is that thing then that is so powerful in those two kinds of ways? What is that thing that it's our purpose to understand and therefore free ourselves from the lesser, and understand and gain mastery and direct experience of the greater? The two things we're here to do: purify ourselves from belief and our source of problems, perfect our understanding to reach our excellence. But also this third thing: figure out what must necessarily be the, how does the analogy finish? As the false is to the truth, there must be a principle or standard or axiom of true itself. True itself, not trueness as an adjective. That's the highest adjective we use to describe our peak experiences. Not its imitation from believers. That's the false. That's the scammers. That's the con artists. That's the grifters. That's the conservatives, capitalists, and religious. What's true itself as a principle? Equally so, if beliefs in the lesser expresses itself in what's bad, the peak experiences of wisdom, knowingness, mind knowing itself, ousia, is goodness, provides our benefit. It's the model of beauty. It's the model of justice. It's the model of all of the things for goodness. Therefore, that's the model that we must seek to understand if we want to rule ourselves. It should be the third person or the third figure in our relationships, the excellence we are both moving towards. And it must be the standard for anyone who claims expertise over what's beneficial for people or societies. The bad, the beneficial, and what must be the principle of what is good. That it has those greater and lesser reflections. And finally, divisiveness, unification, again, what we can unify towards or in our peak experiences, in our ideal relationships, and in our race societies. For there to be the divisive, the unified, there has to be a standard or principle for one. That's our question. Understanding that principle or standard might shed light on those other two kinds of questions we are wondering about the greater and the lesser. But even though we have these new questions we're wondering about, we have seen a lot of things. This is why spiritual traditions based on only the experience of the greater and not based on understanding, philodianoia, true love of understanding, don't solve problems. Because it's understanding that addresses the lesser. In other words, enlightenment experience doesn't magically burn your karma or your problems. Equally so, there are people who get stuck in that experience and never ask the question, what's having the experience? Or what's beyond experience? And those who do encounter that without the understanding to recognize it, without the development of these questions, understanding, reading, analogies, and dialectic, the things, the qualities, the activities of understanding, they won't understand what they experience. Imagine going to your first American football game and you see a glimpse, and it's these big monsters of men bashing each other up. Might be crazy or horrific or scary. You might run away from it. I'm never doing that again. But imagine all the people who've learned the language. Oh, that's a quarterback. That's a right tackle. That's a touchdown. That's a 10-yard line or whatever. They pay lots of money to see that thing. That's what understanding allows us to do. To recognize the thing, but also benefit from that. Someone who watches the best football players with that language of understanding can improve their own game, not just enjoy the experience, but gain a better understanding of the sport, better understanding of their team, better understanding of coaching, get better understanding of their own playing of football. So what are we seeing at the root of what we are doing as human beings? Let's put it on the board. What's our game here? We're in this video game called Human Beings. Our purpose seems to be addressing our problems, which seems to be the lesser expression of something through belief. We're also here to experience our excellence, or our highest functioning, or our peak experiences. Let's use the word excellence to put all those things together. Which is the greater. So we can see, which we experience through understanding, or we facilitate through understanding, we reflect on through understanding, we integrate, we benefit from it. All of those things we talked about with the football game. We get there, we recognize it, we integrate it, we experience it in greater depth. We can even wonder about what's beyond it. Oh my goodness, understanding. My handwriting's not good today. Therefore, if for there to be a greater and lesser, that should be, because this is the principle of analogy, it should sit on top. Greater, lesser. There has to be a, what did we say? The thing itself. The standard or principle that has its reflection and distortion. We could call that the ultimate, or the primary, or the highest, that has its greater and lesser reflections. Which means we can arrange everything we've been reading from the book, simplify it, unify it to understand the nature of human problems, the nature of human excellence, our purpose, but also give rise to the questions. Our job is to A, crush the turds, remove our problems in Mario Brothers. B, kiss the princess, reach our excellence. And then what? What's the gold star? How do we win the Mario Party with the gold star? And of course, if there is belief and understanding, is there a similar cognitive function when we reach the ultimate? And we have highlighted the puzzles that we have, but not only that, we can develop, using this analogy, we can develop clues. For example, we solve our problems by by discovering the inherent intelligibility, the rationality behind our irrationality. Intelligibility. Which it was the pathologos. The sick logos, the sick reasoning. Just as we are able to meditate on our peak experiences, perfect our understanding, and reach the model of understanding being by seeing, by following, by discovering the inherent intelligibility of mind or being, of the greater, which we call the logos. Follow the logos. That activity, well, that is experienced as ousia. But not just ousia, a capacity for mind to turn around and know itself. Just as our problems are problems because they leave us trapped or stuck in a fake ousia. Self-fulfilling prophecies, cycles of problem, self-defense mechanisms. What we've been learning and learning how to read, not read through personal interpretation, but to read following the logos. To follow that logos, which we were calling it the X and Y buttons on our gamepad, being a human as our gamepad. The activity that makes use of those two things, the dialectic. Just as we've been learning, the dialectic used specifically to remove your pathologos by recognizing you're stuck in a cycle, a fake ousia, but there is an inherent intelligibility behind it. That's called philosophical midwifery. Technically, philosophical midwifery also can be applied to the higher, because it's as the dialectician who is asking questions about the greater to someone based on their level of development. So in other words, applying the dialectic even for your deeper insights based on where they're at, the level of pregnancy with their question in their belly. But we can also use it to distinguish this use of dialectic as well. It kind of has two meanings, depending on the context. What's the other thing we make use of? Anagogic or analogy. But what sort of analogy? anagogic. Anagogic analogy. So we have here, right? We're doing it right now. There is an analogy. Lesser is to greater is to ultimate, or A is to B is to C. Anagogic analogy. Why is it called anagogic? Because it has the capacity to cycle upwards. That's the kind of ousia that we're making use of in analogy. Upward moving. Well, we're making use of it in the dialectic and how we're organizing the terms from the text as we're doing right now. Therefore, we can understand its distorted reflection, its lesser expression, helps us to understand the nature of human problems. As we saw, let's see, what do you think? The cycles of our problems is not an upward moving or anagogic analogy, it's a repeating analogy. That's our... So as we were just saying, there's two aspects. What is the nature of human injustice? So we could also put justice is to injustice as well. We can expand it out lots. Like this would be the archetypal analogy because it's describing creation. What's the original creator? What's the transpersonal universal dimension of models or intelligence? And then what's its reflection? So we could put justice is to injustice. So all of the things that we've been collecting from the text, injustice, sadism, death and destruction, human extinction, shitty relationships, sexism, all that stuff, racism, all of these imposed fake hierarchies used to oppress and enslave, tyranny, all of that goes in this lesser. But we're getting to its essence of what it is. So that's the nature of human problems. But hang on a second. If we are here for a reason, in other words, if all human beings get these kinds of false beliefs as part of it, if you're going to play Mario Brothers, you have the overalls and you can do the jump and you can do the fireball. That's part of the game. Then really our issue isn't that we can have beliefs, that we can have a distorted shadow, that we can be conned by the appearance of expertise, con artists of the world, capitalists, religious conservatives. It's that we get, by the way, everyone gets this. Everyone gets a fundamental false belief that it keeps us stuck in this way because, well, the absurd way we allow children to be raised in a house where mummy and daddy, or whatever the parental equivalent is or surrogate is the CEO, king, priest of the house. And we haven't yet developed this way of using reflection to challenge them. So that's the nature of problems, but the issue, the human issue or the human puzzle, the rub is we are stuck in them. We are stuck. So let's get rid of the stuck here. We are stuck. We can't get out. Instead of loving understanding, discovering these books, following this channel, donating to this channel if you want, we'd rather do something else. We'd rather live a life as a slave to the tyranny of our unsuspected false beliefs, causing our injustice, causing our blocks, causing our limitation, causing us to be stuck in fake Usia cycles, both in this lifetime and beyond. So in other words, the nature of human problems as a problem, not what turns a puzzle that we are here to solve as our purpose, crush them turds, into a problem, is when, instead of crushing them turds on Mario Brothers, Mario falls in love with the Koopa Troopers and starts kissing them. And then when Luigi says, I'm a Luigi, I'm gonna throw a fireball at the Koopa Trooper, Mario goes, no, you bastard. You're a socialist. You're a heathen. You're a goyim. You're a lazy worker. All of the words that are used to demonize anyone who challenges the beliefs. You're anti-Koopa Trooper. Where's your Koopa Trooper patriotism? Instead of kissing the princess, Mario kisses the Koopa Trooper.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now.
That's what you should say to them.
First you're saying the F word or whatever you said. Now the tone is completely out of control.
Nice. The tone is very funny, actually. We're having a lot of fun.
I'm just thinking about being hot.
Except for Emma, who's just thinking about being hot.
Goon.
Goons. Gooners.
Okay, calm down. Calm down, all of you. Stuck in the stagnant Usia cycle. So maybe we can, which is called the redundant analogy. So everything about the greater, this is the highest use of analogy. Analogy is how we think or process. We process our experience to learn from it. Oh, look at that shepherd guiding his sheep. Maybe I can guide my puppies that way, guide my soul that way, learn what it means to be a good leader by looking at the best shepherd in town. This is how we process our experience and turn it into a developmental learning process. That's analogy. And we nail that analogy down, that learning down through the dialectic. That's the activity of understanding logos. Both together, really. Whereas, to become a loyal defender of the family beliefs, as Harry is realizing in the book, I'm going down with the ship. I'm fighting to defend these losing arguments, and I don't even know if they're mine. Just like I did at home with my father. Uh-oh. The redundant analogy keeps us blocked. If we're here for a reason, there must be some fake logos, fake teaching. You could call this the fake teaching or the fake dharma, keeping us in a fake cycle of problems that we are here to address. The thing about being in time is you get to go through this process in time. So it's not that we have beliefs, it's that we don't deal with them properly. It's like saying, geez, the people who are destroying the planet, torturing people, murdering innocent people en masse in the millions for personal fun and profit, wow, they're really fucked up. But all the people who vote conservative, become religious or don't leave their religion, or support the Epstein billionaire capitalist class, they are the most ignorant. What should we do about them? Now, the issue isn't that they exist. It's the issue is that we allow the worst, most sick, pathologos driven people of our society to manipulate them. The imitator of something convinces the ignorant more than that who knows about it. If you know what skateboarding is, and some poser comes along, you're not going to buy his garbage. But if you don't know anything about skateboarding and someone comes, well, I did a sick stale fish grab 180 nollie twist yesterday, and everyone clapped. The more ignorant you are, the more you can be exploited. The issue is, the most ignorant we allow rulership. We allow them to be manipulated as members of Gestapo ICE or Nazi soldiers or religious foot soldiers or whatever. It's not that we have problems, it's what we do with them. Therefore, this isn't a blame game. You're not innately bad. Human problems are not good versus evil. It's wisdom versus ignorance. That's the issue. It's what we do about them. In other words, we shouldn't be allowing the most vulnerable to be exploited by the worst, most psychopathic and sadistic of our society, which we currently allow because we don't demand understanding in those key positions, rulership positions of our society. We should be helping them, giving them the most help, the most encouragement, rationally sharing all technology and resources with everyone, sustainably, renewably, efficiently, to meet all human needs without the need for fucking work anymore. We can do it. That's called being rational, which is nothing other than functioning through understanding. What does understanding do? Apprehends universal principles. What can it do with those principles? Function to know and show the model. To know the universal principles, to show or function through them. So to apprehend the universal principles, to apply them universally, and what's the consequence? To universally benefit. Therefore, that's what it means to be a guru, a politician, any sort of leader over human souls and institutions that have to harmonize with the rules of the universe. That's the banner. Can fit on a bumper sticker. Universal principles universally applied to universally benefit. It's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
Everything this guy does is perfect and beautiful.
He's handsome. I said it.
That's a universal principle, that I'm handsome. I didn't say that. That wasn't me. All right. The redundant analogy is the issue. It's not that we have them, it's that we get stuck in them. We become loyal to them, and therefore fight against the best people, fellow Dianoia philosophers, and fight against our best interests, the benefit from moving from belief to understanding, and fight against doing the very activities that can facilitate our benefit. Reading, dream analysis, philosophical midwifery, buying a coffee to people like us so we can have chats about those things. That being stuck in your problems, in other words, if analogy is how we facilitate, no, what's the word? Process our experiences in order to learn, to develop, to glean the understanding that we are here to do to benefit. The distorted version is the redundant analogy, That's what keeps us stuck and stagnant. That's the issue. So this is the problem, which is represented as A is to B as A is to B. Do unto others what was done unto me, or imitation. The thing that I saw done, copy it. My dad was racist, so I'm racist. That kind of crap. My mum was a Muslim, so I'm Muslim. That kind of crap. My dad killed Palestinians for the Jewish state, so I will too. My dad was a MAGA, so I'm gonna join ICE too. Now, just to be clear, this is a simplified version of the analogy here, so let's fix that. So, so this is the true Dharma. As Socrates taught us, or we're not learning from Socrates, we're learning from Dr. Pierre Grimes. As PG teaches us through this book, as we learn to read it and utilize it, so too, because all of these things about the cause of human problems and our purpose to remove them, and the nature of human excellence and our purpose to fulfill that, because it's universal, we can apply it to anyone. Everyone you meet who has the capacity for a dialogue, which requires language and self-awareness or self-reflection, is going to be at some level, some stage of where they're stuck and where they're at, which are simplifications of, hey, what level of insight or understanding and insight into your problem, or your inherent intelligibility of your problem, your pathologos, are you at? Sorry, it's a catchphrase. How are you with where you're stuck? How are you with your excellence? And of course, how have your dreams been lately? Because dreams, as we've been discovering for ourselves through the series, give us information. So these universal principles that we are learning and we can apply anywhere, we have to populate them with our own specific learning about our false beliefs we're here to uncover. Our own specific questions, curiosity, inspiration that will drive us to our peak experiences. What do you want to master properly? What question do you have? That's why we talk with people. That's the dialectic turned into philosophical midwifery when you're addressing that person in particular. For us, because sometimes it's not easy to find people in this game, dreams will do that with you. Dreams will give you many stories or dramas or allegories. Why allegories? Because allegories is the anagogic analogy. It will give you particulars about your drama, about your states of mind, about your insight or false beliefs about the self, and about how these cause your successes or failures. So your dreams will help populate the specifics so you can go through this process and apply these general principles to you specifically to learn the art and fulfill your purpose. Remove your specific problems and reach your specific way of reaching excellence. So that's how we are using the understanding of the universal, non-physical, transpersonal, eternal, and applying it to the specific. Because, as Pierre Grimes teaches us in this book, so too we could teach our friend, or our partner, or our alien species member. In any dimension, at any time, in any galaxy, in any multiverse, it's not specific to what the jabronis are doing here right now. But isn't that interesting? As we function in the teacher role, or the true guru role, we are going from the general in our understanding and state of mind and applying it to the specifics. to learn the skill, we have to be getting the specifics from the text or from our dream, both the text and our dreams and our distracting thoughts, tangents, and fantasies that intrude. Those are the three things: the text, our blocks, and our dreams, that give us the specifics so that we can move to the general. By doing these analogies here and the dialectics here, we're understanding the universal from the specifics. What we've been learning in the last week or so is how to do that same thing to your problems so we can crush the turds, remove our problems. And what we've been learning about everything we can use to do that, move from the specifics to the general, either in reading and the dialectic, or reading and the analogies and the dialectic. Our problems that come up as we do the reading to block our reading, collect them into analogies and apply the midwifery dialectic. We also do with our dreams. In other words, our dreams give us specific dramas, give us a little movie. But they're not literal. When your dream says, here's a dream of you talking to your friend from 3rd grade as you ride a dinosaur, and then you make out with your teacher. That's not literal. That didn't really happen, and it's not going to happen. Well, there are some prophecy dreams, but that's a different category. But they're not literal. It's a analogy. But they are so perfectly, masterfully created that every aspect, the states of mind, is a simile analogy. What's it like when you felt this or that? The objects, the dragon, your 3rd grade teacher, is an analogy of metaphor. What does it represent? And the drama is an allegory. The stages that you go through are all analogies that you will only be able to see if you move from the specifics to the general. That's how we do dream analysis. That's how we address our problems. That's how we find the underlying meaning of these texts that we read. It's not specifically about what do you do when you find yourself in a coffee shop called the Greek Corner Restaurant with a jabroni like Harry who's got a hottie way out of his league like Aaliyah. What do you do? It's not a pick-up artist guide. It's not a physical thing. It's not the kind of learning we do at school to make bankers and weapons manufacturers. No, we go from the specifics to the general. That's what we've been doing here. That's why we do a lot of reflection. What we've been doing in half of these streams, or half of the time spent in these streams, is collecting the specifics and moving analogically from the specifics to the general, to the principles. And that's how you unpack your dreams. That's how you listen to the voice, the kakademon, the one that puts you down. Why? Because if it's putting you down, it's telling you something about yourself not being good enough, about reality being stupid or cruel or wrong or evil, and about your functioning. You're too stupid to understand in this higher way, to function in the higher way. But the thing is, they are all false, which means the expert you're listening to is an imitator. It's a Harry. It's a Trump. It's a priest, imam, rabbi, minister, guru, bullshit artist. It's a grifter. And we know if we ever listen to them, only harm follows. So it's not that we're being messed with because it's always false and bad, but it's a message that you will only get, like your dreams, if you move analogically. If you take those specifics and you apply this movement from the specific to the greater. What drama do you play out in those thoughts? In your little fantasy, what happened? Was it a little story? Did you imagine yourself going down to the supermarket and talking to that cashier that you got a crush on? What did she say to you? How did you feel? How did you function? Did she embarrass you? Like you always imagine happens? Is it a cycle? Do you have a limited role in that drama? There's your role. or division? Did you have certain states of mind that made it hard for you to function the way you wanted to? In other words, states of mind that causes you functioning in that role? Must you have an image of yourself that lends to, or that pretends to, that expresses itself through, is reflected in your state of mind about yourself? You're not literally at the store. And that's, by the way, that's called waking up. That's a mini enlightenment. When you're on a little fantasy, you're reading or you're enjoying this amazing stream.
Hubba hubba. I just want more testosterone to human body ratio, and I'll finally be satisfied.
And you go off on a tangent like Emma with her gooning fantasies. Goon. When you wake up and you realize it's not reality, it's not real. I'm here at my desk or laying on the couch or whatever. You were absorbed in the fake analogy as if it was real. When you wake up and realize that it's not actually, it's just a little tangent daydream, that's a mini enlightenment. In other words, it's the same nature as enlightenment. Why? Because enlightenment is nothing other than realizing your whole life has been a fake analogy demonstrating the pathologos in cycles. But it's the lesser, it's not real. Reality is experienced through this realm of being. Literally, that movement from the physical world experiences through your physical senses to awaken the ousia capacity to know mind itself, that's the definition of enlightenment. That's what an enlightenment experience is, the greatest experience, etc., etc. So when you wake up and you realize your fantasy isn't you, but was what you were really doing, it was a distraction from what you were trying to do, that's the same quality, same nature. And the more you come to apply this analogy anagogically to move from specifics, put it on the board, more you apply this analogical analogy principle to move from specifics to the general or universal or the principle, the better you can recognize the false, that you can therefore use to make the anagogic or upward moving movement to meaning, the meaning of those distracting thoughts. Hey, you're not being messed with by those voices that sound like early figures from your family or parents to mess with you because the devil is whatever, or Loki is a trickster god, or the devil is sadistic. Reality, no, reality is sadistic. No. It's not like what Eastern religions will say. It's all Maya, it's all delusion. Thinking is a sickness. No. It's a message that you can only get if you learn the language, which is applying this. The anagogic movement through analogies to go from the specifics or you could say the particulars of your dream, of that voice, of if you're a midwifery, if you're being the dialectician, the words that the person gives you as you ask them the dialectic questions. So the dialectic is the universal, midwifery is applying it to the specific. Use those specifics or particulars. Using what we're learning about analogy, and we've seen that there are different classes or versions of that we can make use of. What do we say? Applied to the states of mind. We call that simile. What's it like? What's it like when you felt that? Simile. How do you spell simile? Some might be asking. And so I looked that up.
I have known people who go to therapy, but they don't actually want to grow and improve and change as people. They just use all the therapy speak to help, like, continue being a shitty person.
Simile. There's no double L, there's no double E. So, yes, this isn't debate. So this is the opposite of debate. Debate is finding the... By the way, this is the Oracle just described. Learning this kind of language to use it to be a shitty person is nothing other than to use the language of the greater and not apply it to your specifics, your particulars, analogically to move to the greater. That's true analogy, dialectic, dianoia understanding. What the Oracle described is Stoicism. What everyone in academia thinks philosophy is. What 90% of all philosophy shows or podcasts are about. Stoicism, which is a fancy word for using the language of the greater to defend your specifics. It's all relative to my opinions. Academic philosophy, love of opinions, the opposite. It's the downward movement. Everything other than this, claiming to be philosophy. Debate.
Debate pervert.
I'm going to use the language of reason and reflection, not to explore in a friendly way with my friends what is universal to benefit everyone and our species. No, I'm going to use that language to fuck people over in competition, to defend my beliefs. The exact opposite. What the Oracle just described, hear it again.
I have known people who go to therapy, but they don't actually want to grow and improve and change as people. They just use all the therapy speak to help, like, continue being a shitty person.
Continue being a shitty person means to be stuck in the redundant analogy. I am going to do unto others what was done unto me, and use this language to appear like an expert. That's imitation. That's why only the best people get to play this game. It's for everyone, but at this stage of our development, only the best people are going to be the first through the wall, or to rediscover, not through the wall. That sounds like it's hard. No, to wake up for earlier to our purpose. Hopefully enough humans get on board so we can discover. If we're able to do this as a species, we can discover what's our ultimate purpose for our human race. If we recognize we can understand beliefs to solve problems, we can understand true understanding, dianoia, as we're doing right now, to reach our excellence, we can ask the question, well, if we can put an end to injustice and have a just world, what then? What role might humanity have within a greater galaxy? Same thing. Notice there's 3 terms in that anagogic. The C, the B, and the A. Or A, B, C if you're going the other direction. 3. Only 2 in the stagnant analogy. So, that would be using language to stay in the particulars, defend the particulars, not my beliefs, not my parents, not my family way of being, not my politician, not my religion. We are the best one, actually. We are the chosen people. That's being a shitty person. Being stuck in the particulars. Which is also listening to that voice, the Kaka-daemon, the voice that's telling you about your problems and taking it literally. That would be taking the specifics, taking the particulars literally is the opposite of analogy. Being a shitty person, as the Oracle says.
I have known people.
No, I already heard that one.
You're not going to magically force someone to want to get better. You have to come to that conclusion yourself. You have to want to get better.
You have to want to be a better person. Otherwise, you'll take your own personal beliefs. It's all relative to your own. You'll say, well, I learned in the school of hard knocks. It's my truth. And you'll take that literally. So taking it literally is what it means to be a shitty person. Which is nothing other than being stuck in the redundant analogy without knowing it. So in other words, we're doing it anyway. We're doing analogy anyway. We're just doing the redundant analogy. We're doing dialectic anyway, only we are doing the distorted version, debate. We are gurus anyway, only that what we are students of were fake teachers. We have everything we need, we're just doing it in the wrong way. That's the redundant analogy. Analogy. Right, so how do we go make the anagogic movement from the specifics analogically in an anagogic movement to meaning, to reach the general, the universal, the principle, the meaning of our messages? Well, states of mind, similes, objects that you face, that you encounter in that little fantasy or dream. Objects, or you could even say the furniture that populates your little fantasy or tangent or daydream or distraction. Furniture. Furniture. I-T-U-R-E. Furniture of your dream. That's metaphor. What does it represent? Which is why you can't do dream interpretation. So those books from Oprah's Book Club or Dr. Phil's fucking whatever or BuzzFeed's What Does Your Dream Mean? Garbage. Because the metaphor will have a personal significance to you, to the life you've lived. Your 4th grade teacher will mean something different to you than they mean to me. Metaphor. Which is why, in order to make human development, you need the specifics, to talk to the specific person, to do the specific dream analysis, to find friends like this to play the game with, and to buy you a coffee so long as you, or buy a lovely meal. Have a fancy lunch for your philosopher friend. As you in exchange, they will ask you the general. So we see, while there's upward movement, there's anagogic. We also have the top down. What color? The dialectician, or the midwife, the philosophical midwife, dialectician, which is actually therefore, the official title of the true guru. But that's what it means. Should we use it? Some people say, well, you're being arrogant. I'm always reminded of this when Socrates pointed out, therefore, the people who know the model must be the experts, be it a pilot who knows the model of how to fly a plane, the model of the healthy body with the doctor, the model of the engine for the mechanic. He didn't say engine, of course, because he's in the olden times. Therefore, the people who know the model of justice, excellence, the patterns of reality, the true philosophers need to be in charge of our society if we want to live in a good world. And his friend said, you better get naked, Socrates. Because it sounds like, hey, you ever met a crypto bro? Who do they think should be in charge? The crypto bros. Ever met a Republican? Who do they think should be in charge? The Republicans. Ever met a pope or religious authority? Who do they think should be in charge? Them. Everyone thinks they should be in charge. That's the nature of the stagnant analogy. Our loyalty to our beliefs. So here are you, Socrates, saying philosophers should be in charge, but you're a philosopher. So strip down. Why? Because back then, when people wrestled, they would do it naked. Gymnasium is like a Greek word for being naked with the bros.
Oh my fuck.
Bitch.
Okay, calm down. So he's like, hey, you just said that philosophers should be in charge? Well, you better get ready to fight about it. In today's language, if you said get naked, it wouldn't mean to fight. It would mean something else.
They're completely lying to you. Yeah. I'm too pure.
Emma's too pure for that joke.
I don't know if you know this, but like weird dudes exist everywhere.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, but the irony is, someone has to be right. The principle is true. Yes. That would be the qualification. Philodianoia philosopher. Expertise in the field. Not because Socrates is a philosopher, so he doesn't have to fight about it as if he was like a banker saying the bankers should be in charge, which is the problem that we're in now, right? Everyone believes in their beliefs and are ruled by that injustice and seek a position of doing it unto others what was done unto them. That's human injustice. That's all human problems expressed in a simple mathematical equation with only two terms. Can you do the alphabet from the A and B? Can you do the first two? And you can understand mathematically the nature of human problems. Isn't that neat? That's the thing about understanding. Once you see it, it took us work to see it, but it's simple. It's just this. A, B, A, B. Anyway. So a philosophical midwife would therefore be the one going down. The midwife, we'll use it. So don't tell me I have to get naked and defend this.
I have a sickness for the thickness.
The more duopoggers.
Irrelevant. But that's what it would mean to be a philosophical midwife. Application of the dialectic or dialectician is what it means to be a guru, true teacher. And their teaching involves the downward movement. To use the art to address the particulars, which is the definition of benefit, or the skill applied to meet someone where they're at. Art. Using the specific skill, the expertise and understanding of that specific skill to address someone where they're specifically at in order to benefit them. That's what an art is. I thought art meant whatever you wanted it to be. I thought art was all relative. I thought art was nailing a banana to a wall or whatever. No. Has to benefit. Therefore, if you are a painter, make sure you present your paintings in a way where you can talk about them. A showing. Give a general talk about your art, and then everyone has the wine and the cheese and they wander around, and then people will individually approach you and ask you questions. Here's where you can use your art as the shared term of reflection We're jumping a little bit, but why not? There's you, the artist, or the highest form, the philosophical midwife. There's the other person, the normie, no, the person who's curious. It's a woman. Curious. You tell she's a woman because of my amazing art. There you go. The artist and the subject and the shared term. Which is your painting. Hey, look at that painting. What do you think about it? What questions do you have about it? Well, it reminds me of this. Oh, really? Let me ask you some follow-up questions. So I can ask you specific questions. It's easy because we're looking at a shared piece of art. You don't feel like you're on trial or anything like that. Not any of that bullshit. You're in a threesome. There's you going top down, her going bottom up, and the shared term. Could be a painting, could be a dream that she brought with her in dream analysis. Could be the fantasies or tangents or the problem clues that she's been collecting over a period of time. Problem clues. Could be the text that we're reading. It gives us a shared term to focus our attention so that the person, the teacher, and the student can focus on something in the middle. What's that? That's called the mean term. That's the B. In the A is to B as B is to C. Or simplified, because B is doing double duty, you could say A is to B is to C. That's what art is. So as they're wandering around with their cheese and their wine, you could say, oh, what did you think about my painting? Well, I thought this. Oh, let me ask you that. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. What's that? You are using your skill to benefit by addressing the particulars of the person you're relating it to. That turns the universal, the principles of the dialectic and analogy, into, or adds truth and humanness. That's the game. The truth applied to the humanness, philosophical midwife. Therefore, whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, whatever your medium happens to be, where you can focus on it while your viewers or your subjects also look at that thing, there's a shared focus. So it's not just, this is what I believe, garbage. It's through that shared term that you can both focus on, that you can use what level of understanding and insight into excellence or problems or understanding itself to benefit them based on where they're at. So you're going down, you're creating the art. The author created the book. We are at the bottom. We are the ones in the colors. We are the ones dealing with the specifics in our reading, moving to the general. So in other words, we could also call this reading. Reading. Oh, we're reading. We're learning what reading is. Recognizing our purpose is to find the specifics, use analogy in an anagogic way to go from the specifics to the general. And that can only work if the author themselves was an expert and was creating the art so that every object, every metaphor, every simile, every pattern, every drama has an analogical meaning. So you're not making a story about Spider-Man fighting Superman aimlessly. There's an idea you want to represent. With great power comes great responsibility, whatever it is. That's why we read these books, because they are gurus, Socrates, Homer, and Pierre Grimes, or masters of the Logos, and they have a level of mastery that they can create. In order to create, they must know and show. Know their art and be able to function through that art. To create, you have to both know and function through. So the know and show is a nice phrase, but to have it in definition and also in your functioning, which is the first two terms of the dialect. Definition and demonstration. To know and show it. That's why we read these books. We are reading books written by gurus, masters of the self-logos, on this channel. And that's also why we pay attention to our dreams. Therefore, if our dreams can be understood to be creating something that benefits us, that specifically addresses and even populates our world with our specifics, greater than an artist who has to listen to you talk and apply it to their painting or the text that we're reading. Everything is specifically created based on where you're at, your level of understanding and vision about where you're at or where you're stuck. Every state of mind is a simile. Every object or bit of furniture in the dream is a metaphor, and every drama or story is an allegory. How do I spell allegory? Well, you listen to the Oracle talk for a second.
You actually have to address the systemic...
Oops. Go.
You actually have to address the systemic inequalities. The people who believe that there should be hierarchies and that they should be above other people, that should just be addressed rather than just trying to segregate shit. Whoa! Crazy, 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 crazy.
Crazy! You have to address the cause, the principle, not listen to their particulars. People's problem. I want to establish this hierarchy of inequality because of my religion, beliefs, family beliefs, political beliefs, capitalist beliefs. No. You don't acquiesce to that, you idiot. You are the subject. You are the sick person. The patient doesn't come into the doctor's office and says, hello, doctor. These are the drugs you must prescribe me today. No. You address the conditions, which is you apply the general downward to address the particulars. And in our dreams, two L's, L-E, allegory. Which means two things. Well, it means a few things. It means as everything we're learning about reading, which is the anagogic use of analogy and dialectic to move upward to the general universal principles where we get meaning, and therefore we can participate in our benefit. And participate in benefit. We can apply it to our dreams. So we're learning what reading is, and we're learning how to listen to our dreams and any pathologos or kakadaemon thoughts that distract us. But also, we can further develop our question about what dreams are. If dreams use all of them, and again, you'll have to test it for yourself. You can't make someone change, as we heard from the Oracle earlier. Right, Emma?
I'm too pure.
Okay. RM?
It's awesome, and it's gangster.
It is very gangster. If our dreams utilize all of them, what must it say about our dream maker? So, if the text allows us to understand the nature of human problems, human excellence, and also give rise to that question about what's the purpose behind doing both, what's the inherent justice behind the injustice of human problems when we see that we have the lesser and greater, and we can analogically move from the lesser into the greater. For what reason? What's the thing that has a greater and lesser expression? So this text allows us to understand human problems, human excellence, and our ultimate purpose, or at least give rise to the questions to begin that journey, or to not begin, we're far from beginning, but to continue to wonder about what's the ultimate or the principle or the standard. We can ask a question, what does it say about the author? Or what does it say about our dream maker? If it does that, creates in the most artful way, in the most beneficial way, knowing and showing the highest level of excellence, functioning as a guru, it seems, and we can participate ourselves so long as we anagogically read it, which involves going from the specifics through analogy to the general, universal, or principle. If you take the specifics literally, I believe with all, I'm a realist, I agree with all of my own opinions, that's being a shitty person. And the tools or the aspects of that analogy, the states of mind, what's it like? Simile, the objects, what does that mean? Metaphor. The drama, allegory. Allegory is a drama that has a spiritual meaning, or a meaning for your development, anagogic meaning. And you can even do that to, she's got one arm. Oh dear. Kick her out of the gallery. No, there's her other arm. We can also become like a dialectician, like a guru, like our dream maker in our own creation of art, or dream analysis, or midwifery on problems, or the text that we're reading. Therefore, there's a mean term. So there's the expression of the mean analogy, A is to B as B is to C, allowing the two extremes to come together. You as the artist focuses on the painting, her as the subject that your art is to benefit focuses on the painting. Looks similar to the ideal relationship, isn't it? There's you, although it's a bit different because this is a different kind of, there's you, there's your beloved, and there's the shared ideal, which is the ruling term. It's a bit different. Because here there's a greater and lesser. Anyway, so what? So that's our model for the Dharma, or the Logos, or knowing and showing, as Pierre Grimes is teaching us through the book. So too, because you are learning the universal and you're learning the art of midwifery to apply it specifically to the person you're talking to, ideally through dream analysis, so too we can help our friends. Allowing your friends to connect with the teaching of Pierre Grimes, who himself is part of the lineage, learning from Socrates, who learnt from Parmenides, who learnt from Xenophanes, who learnt from Homer, and so on. That's the lineage. That's the true lineage. Whereas being a shitty person, in the redundant analogy, would be as parent, the fake guru, the pretender, the fake guru, the imitator, the king, priest, CEO of the house is to you as the child. So the way that they related to you, no questions, no dialectic, no expertise, punishment, division, threats, all that shit. Or removal of rewards. Doesn't have to be in violence. In other words, the root cause of our problems isn't trauma. Why? Because this isn't traumatic, doesn't have to be traumatic. Because they're presenting an ideal. They're relating to you as though they are a guru, as though they know, as though they're being loving, as though this is caring. By the way, trauma as the cause of a problem, that's physical. You bump your head, you get CTE. So modern psychology is borrowing from the physical model, the lesser medicine. That's why it's all diagnoses and illness. You got a problem in your mind, you must have bumped your head or had trauma. This is the true model. And no, I don't have to get naked and fight because I'm saying, well, I know the true model and modern psychologists are dum-dums. No, it's everything that we are showing and we were doing ourselves, we are using universal principles to prove it, and you can yourself populate them yourself by testing it. It's not my opinion, it's just what is. And instead of fighting for the ignorance of, but I spent 10 years becoming a modern psychologist. Well, good thing you learned sooner rather than later. Good thing you learned in this lifetime and not taking it with you in your death. Do something about it. It's not a blame game. Oh, okay. But I've sunk so much money. Who cares? Would you say that to your patients? They've sunk so much time and money into their false way of being? Well, you better stay in it. The sunk cost fallacy. Then you, as a psychologist or as a philosopher or whatever it is, that makes you think you had expertise, practice what you preach. What's the actual model? The parent, functioning as the fake guru, is to the child as a shitty person. What's the one?
You're not going to magically force someone to want to get better. I have known people who go to therapy, but they don't actually want to grow and improve and change as people. They just use all the therapy speak to help, like, continue being a shitty person.
So the child wants to be a parent. So human beings who are not waking up to this game, well, not all, but there is that drive within. That's the motivation. This is the underlying axiom, but some worse than others, of course. Seek a position, and the worst are the worst at it. Seek a position where they can play it to someone else. As Trump was abused by his parents, so he abuses Americans, everyone in the world, because he's in a power where he doesn't have to follow the law. The Epstein files. Law doesn't apply to me. Your CEO. They can do whatever they want because they have the money. The Pope, they speak for God. The King and Queen, they don't pay taxes, they get all the money, they don't have to work. One rule for me, one rule for thee. We seek a position where we want to be the parent, acting as the king, priest, CEO, with impunity, treating someone else as a child. That's the only thing you can do if you are operating out of belief. Because that's imitation of expertise. That's or being a shitty person. Following the redundant analogy, which is mathematical expression of all human problems. A is to B, parent is to child. as parent is to child. Redundant. Stagnant. Where this is the upward moving, it allows the lesser term, friend, to join with the greater term. The anagogic analogy or Dharma, which just means the true teaching, the spiritual teaching, or our true human functioning. This is our ideal. So if you actually have learned from someone else, you can teach someone else. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
That's what I said.
That's anti-feminist and so.
I'm so unsettled. I am so unsettled.
Calm down, Emma. Jesus.
What the hell kind of a show is this? What is this, the comedy mothership?
Sounds like it, hey, because we have so much fun.
In the final quarter of the ball game, you have to throw it, and that's when it all matters. It's all up to that one moment.
And this is all up to this moment, like in the ball game. To do this. So that's how we listen to our dreams. But also, that's how we can wonder about the dream maker itself, and how we could see that maybe our dream maker, or the author of this book, or the philosophical midwife, is our own ideal that we are seeking towards, which is to function through the anagogic analogy, which we're learning how to do by reading. Hooray! Therefore, a test for our freedom of problems, as we saw the conclusion of yesterday's episode, if we have sufficiently freed ourselves from our problems, so this is the mathematical definition or expression of our problems, and our purpose is to move from them or crush the turts, is Mario. Right, this is not a hat. He's crushing the turts. The first part of our game. Right. To reach our excellence, which would be this analogy here, the anagogic analogy, or the mean analogy. A is to B as B is to C. Over here as well. So a test to see if, to verify our understanding would be to see if we can, if we've sufficiently freed ourselves from our problems by no longer treating people, addressing injustice, addressing problems, addressing other human beings the way your parents did to you, and instead being able to move from beliefs into understanding or kiss the princess. love hearts. There we go. Excel, yes, and spell excellence, excellence. So we saw last time, our job therefore is to learn to recognize the specifics, apply analogy to make an analogical movement, guided by the art of the dialectician, to move from the specifics or particulars or what's false to what is meaningful, to get the meaning that we can benefit from. To participate in. That's our job. That applies to dream analysis, that applies to reading, that applies to any moment. If you can see that this is the logos, that mean term that allows for that facilitation. That which allows for, let's color, this color. What do you say?
Everybody should love sluts. I love sluts.
Everybody should love sluts. You agree, Emma?
The more holes, the better.
Sounds like she agrees.
Be a reasonable gooner.
Oops. Because we are reasonable gooners. We use the logos in our gooning. Right?
Everything this guy does is perfect and beautiful. And he's handsome. You know, I said it.
Well, good thing somebody has been saying it. Needs to be said more. In chat. I'm kidding. So, that which allows the shared mean term from our ideal to address the particulars, from the artist to the subject, and also allows us as the subject to reach the ideal, us as developing souls to reach the ideal state of self, Dream Master, Guru, Midwife, Dialectician, Artisan, that which allows for that transition, that allows for its expression through analogy, that allows for its expression through the dialectic, is the inherent intelligibility of reality, because we're learning about what's real and benefiting ourselves in reality. Our problems and our excellence, and our movement, our anagogic development or growth. We're looking for the inherent intelligibility behind reality, problems, and excellence to facilitate our anagogic development or growth. That's the mean term that allows for the down to help the up, to help the low, the greater to help the lesser, and the lesser to reach the greater. And therefore, once we facilitate that, once we've completed our journey, fulfilled our purpose, freeing us from our problems in this life and the prison, the chains of our problems and the prison of reincarnation, a test would be, have you crushed the turts and have you kissed the princess? Are you no longer responding, stuck in the stagnant analogy, which is the nature of all human problems? Have you crushed those turtles, perchance? And can you now kiss the princess? Can you now everything you've been learning to free yourself from the stagnant analogy, can you also pass that on to someone else? That's our human functioning. That's the Dharma tradition. That's the true teaching. And also, wouldn't it be a kind of standard or test? Not that color. For whether or not you've freed yourself from your problems. Because not only have you freed yourself from your problems, you have learned the method needed to do that, so you can, well, the true functioning, which is your innate functioning. Why? Because it's the innate or intrinsic intelligibility of yourself, of reality. And problems are a shadow. It's only because our parents pretended to be experts, like Harry in the text, that gave it any validity. So that was our conclusion from yesterday, last episode. Can you relate even to these people, not as a child mad at the injustice that they did to you, not as a parent doing the same thing back to them, but as someone in a different tradition, the true human tradition? Can you respond as a dialectician or a philosophical midwife or a philodine, a lover of understanding? If so, there's your test. To see if you're free to be yourself. Therefore, having addressed your problems and learned all of this reading, this is all the general, so your problems are your specific, but the general is everything on the board. All these are they're not opinions, they're not from some holy book, they're just what is in reality. They can be applied to specifics, but they're general. Therefore, in doing both, going through the process of removing your problems and learning what it truly means to be a functioning, ideally, there's our gold star. You can be a true philosopher king or queen. Knowing and showing your true self. Gotta do both. Learn it and do it. Definition, demonstration. So this becomes our standard for freeing ourselves from our problems in what we've been exploring. Dream analysis. Therefore, we can take this back to our puzzles. What's our puzzles? What's our ultimate purpose? What's the star at the end of it all? We have a repeating term, so there is some sort of, so we can say there's something, there is some inherent intelligibility here as well, in our ultimate. What's the inherent intelligibility that our dream maker functions through, that the author functions through? Is there a higher logos? Is there a higher ousia? We're not doing the dialectic in midwifery, we're creating some sort of creation. Some sort of creation. So all these questions we can wonder. Some sort of, what we got over here? Some sort of creation, some sort of artisan, some sort of guru making use of the inherent intelligibility. Some sort of ultimate. Artist. Creator. Philosophical midwife. And dialectician. Some sort of master of analogy. Using some sort of... Actually, let's get rid of these question marks here. Some sort of ultimate artisan, creator, philosophical midwife, dialectician. Oh, that's messy. Emma?
Duopoggers.
What else?
It's a total shit show.
Hey, calm down.
Conservatives are so stunted that they don't understand these things.
Exactly. We're learning how to help them, provided they want help. Or establish the culture and institutions so that they'll naturally be going through these institutions and see it's normal and it's part of education. It is education. Some sort of master of analogy to create those dreams, to create those analogies, to create and facilitate the reflection. Some sort of master artist and master of analogy. Therefore, in order to ultimately know and show, to know and show the true self. Know and show the true self using or making use of the inherent intelligibility. So using the inherent intelligibility move this. Using the inherent intelligibility from the dialectic that's expressed in the dialectic and midwifery, and also the for there to be a greater and lesser expression through analogy, the true singular or one that benefits, so is good, standard or principle. I'm just going to use the word standard. Standard axiom or model or standard. As the A term within analogy. So in other words, through the anagogic analogy, if our excellence is to know and show the self, which is functions in this is the showing of it, then the C term becomes like the A term, and the A term, the standard, is, well, it's the standard. So therefore our goal is something to do with, let's change the color of this to what color? Purple. Inherent intelligibility behind the dialectic. That's the logos. And the inherent standard behind analogy, the other activity we make use of, that is imitated by the stagnant analogy A term, the fake guru. What's the guru a teacher of? Not aviation, not medicine, the self. I know what you are. I brought you into this world, I can take you out of it, all that shit. Therefore, the two principles, the principle behind human problems, the principle behind problems, the principles of crushing turds, perchance, and the principle behind our ideal functioning or our justice or excellence is these two analogies. Therefore, we'll make it all the same color, just so we can recognize that. What color, though? Green. So the it's kind of samey. Let's make this one a different color green. So the mathematical expression of human problems, the stagnant, stuck, redundant analogy, is the principle behind problems. The anagogic analogy, A is to B as B is to C, mean analogy, is the principle of our excellence. Not only is it the principle, it's what we seek. It's our goal. So the word for principle plus goal, our goal or motivation, axiom. The inherent principle and the motivation or the standard by which we live and therefore seek to realize ourselves in our own life and existence, the axiom. The one true good axiom and the axiom of Philodianoia, philosophers, the Hellenic, and the axiom of human sickness. We seek a position where we can play out that fake stagnant analogy with impunity, because I have power over people in some way, as a politician, as a billionaire. So don't end capitalism, says all the fuckheads in our society. Why? Because I want to be a billionaire, crushing people too. Human sickness. The axiom of human excellence or justice. The axiom of human justice or excellence is to human sickness or injustice. Sickness. See that bit. Sickness or injustice as Philodianoia is to love of understanding is to philodoxia, the love of opinions. Stoic philosophers, academic philosophers, conservatives, religious, capitalist. Philodoxia, love of opinions. So, what we're after is what is the principle, goal, axiom of human justice and excellence oh, that's up here, right? Okay, so the inherent intelligibility along with the single true standard or axiom, which is the goal or axiom or excellence or justice. What's that? What are we seeking? To know and show the self. Self. Therefore, our ultimate purpose through removing what's false, addressing our sickness by addressing our stagnant, redundant analogy, mastering in the reading and the learning that we're doing here, the anagogic analogy, how to use anagogic analogy and the dialectic, doing both the general and the specifics by applying this to your dreams, allows you to master both and move and recognize, hang on a second, the inherent intelligibility or pathologos of your problems, the inherent intelligibility or the logos of your actual problems, of your excellence, the true logos, or the truth of the logos. We can now say, hey, the pathologos or sick logos is to the good logos or healthy logos. Or the true logos. And the fake ousia is to the true ousia, which is anagogic. But the principle for the true and the false, the greater and the lesser, is the standard of the inherent intelligibility Let's align these properly. So lesser, greater is to ultimate. Our problems is to our excellence, is to be able to be a creator or artisan of both, or to facilitate both. Understanding is to belief, as the philosophical midwife can function in relation to both. The inherent intelligibility of the true of problems therefore the true one good standard principle or axiom behind the lesser and greater reflection is the self. That's the principle, an axiom, and as a goal to know and show. Therefore, if that's the standard for the ultimate, the true logos is to the pathologos is to the self logos. That's what we're after. Which is nothing other than knowing the inherent intelligibility of the self via self-ousia and self-logos. The inherent intelligibility of the self, which becomes the single standard for all that is good, true, and one, and allows us to therefore know and show the self. What's the word for that? Well, that's the Phaedo. Find the word in the Phaedo for that. We'll have to go back to the Phaedo sometime. Philosophical midwifery, dialectician, dream maker, dream master. What would you call that? That can create and facilitate what's needed, create the dramas, the movies, the scenes. That can facilitate the dialectic on what's true and your midwifery on what's false. Dreammaker? Question mark? So, hypothesizing our ultimate purpose. Is there an analogy? Is there a missing A is to B is to what? What's the ultimate analogy that gives rise to the anagogic and the stagnant? What's the ultimate way of knowing the self-ousia? What's the ultimate nature of the self-logos? Is it something to do with recognizing the standard of all of the things in the true logos? It has to be a single standard, single axiom, a single purpose, goal, and motivation. Now, all of these are to do with the single. Like that. What's it like to know the self? What's it like to recognize the inherent intelligibility of the self? What's it like to create analogies from that? To give the material needed for people to go through that same process you went through? To master the dialectic, master the midwifery? Why is that the ultimate term? And what's that got to do with the self and our dream maker? Wow, those are the questions. This is how we got there. Look how smart we are. You can tell we're smart because of how colorful all of our words are and how perfectly artistic my visions are.
Dumbass.
Hey,
Everybody should love sluts. I love sluts.
exactly. Should have loved. Right, Emma?
I'm just thinking about being hot.
See, Emma agrees.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
Gooners.
Say, don't call us gooners. You're fucked.
You actually are too stupid to interact with the rest of the world. You should literally be in a labor camp for the rest of your life. You should be in the mines for the rest of your life. You should lose the right to vote because you're such a fucking idiot.
My God, she really went hard on him calling us a gooner.
You are beautiful and everybody loves you, and you have the most beautiful breasts.
And the juiciest ass.
There we go. Well, we did her breasts. Let's do her ass as well because the Oracle told us to. Make them bigger. Give her a little bit of an ass. Doesn't look like it. There we go. Juiciest ass and mightiest, whatever. Beautiful breasts and juicy ass, whatever. Important we listen to the Oracle, right, Emma?
They're secretly turned on by it.
Because all of the viewers will be secretly turned on by my amazing pornographic art. It's artistic. It was in service of art. It was tasteful. Very tasteful. Knowing and showing the true self, what's that involve? Some sort of self-ousia, some sort of self-logos, some sort of self-axiom, some sort of ultimate standard, and going through both. And in the process, we would become ourselves masters of analogy and masters of dialectic. Why? Because we had to deal with the fake analogy. We'd have to deal with the true analogy, with the anagogic analogy. We'd have to deal with the dialectic used to solve problems, midwifery, and we had to learn that standard, learn the general, because the excellence, you can also say, hey, this side of the thing is the general. This is the specifics. The dialectic is a general principle. You could apply the series of questions and the structure of questions to anyone. That's the general. Or in the text, the sameness. Oops. Sameness. How we deal with sameness in the model. Whereas the distortion or beliefs or human problems are personal. Or the specifics. That's our differences. And what do we see in the text? The artisan or the true expertise. Difference. The true expertise that we are seeking of the self, so we can rule ourselves and function, ideally, is to be able to deal with the sameness of the model and the specifics of your difference. All the believer can do is do the same thing as the specific thing he's copying. And now we have the mathematical formula for it. It's this. So as Harry copies the surgeon doing that one surgery, so too he can do that one surgery to the next person. A distortion of dealing with differences by only using the differences as the sameness, doing the same surgery all the time, doing the same thing all the time, doing the same parental role all the time, or stuck in the same stagnant analogy all the time. That is the fake cycle of ousia. That's our problems. Whereas the true expert is their name, which is that simple.
Why do you need 50 bananas? So many
50 bananas.
bananas.
So many. So many bananas.
Duopoggers.
So many bananas. Would have to deal with the sameness relative to the general or model, and also deal with the specifics. Our job anagogically is to go from our own specifics to learn the general in the text, turn around and apply that general to our specifics in our own midwifery and dream analysis, which we are in the process of nailing down currently, which would be our movement from our specifics in our everyday life of being stuck in asleep, zombie-like, blind, like we talked about enlightenment being waking up and realizing what you thought was real isn't because you're in a fantasy. That is your life, waking up to what we have been doing, learning the model, which we've written on the board in lovely colors and sexy diagrams. Going from your specifics to the general and then applying both. Therefore, as you go through dream analysis, you go through this, doing these dialectics yourself, doing these analogies yourself, giving rise to these questions yourself. You are doing the general as you apply it to your dreams, as you've been encouraged to do every step along the way. No, I mean, if you do it once, you're already ahead. That's at least something. But, you know, you can move quickly like a rogue, or you can move clumsily and slowly like a paladin. It's up to you. And ideally, the dream's been saying, do it with friends, if you can find friends to play this game with. One of my goals is, the only place I've found friends who are open to this kind of reflection has been in California, which is where the book is set. Joseph is from Orange County or Huntington Beach, whatever it was, Golden West College in California. And that's where I was able to play the game with other people. I've been mainly learning on my own. That poster is a solo leveling. You can't really see it. I'm gonna have to get a different poster for that wall. I got a new koala back there. I'm gonna have to get a white poster. Maybe One Piece or something. Don't know. Maybe Frieren? That's a nice anime. Kind of mundane though. I hear the fans are weird. Anyway, what am I talking about? I'll find a different painting. Put the solo leveling somewhere else. Can't really see it. See the koala man. It's not a man, it's an animal. What? Yes, find friends to do it. I know I was talking about how I want to, I don't know, find people, as I did in California, which is where Joseph was. So Harry said, hey, what are you guys doing in Golden West? This. And when I was there were people interested in doing dream analysis and dialectic with me, and they would buy me coffee and lunch, and that was nice. In exchange for a dream talk or a review of whatever. And the author was there as well, so that was a lot of fun. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So, but you can do that. From our reading and our reflection, reading and reflection, Apollo and Aphrodite get the sameness, get the model, the model of the analogy, model of dialectic, apply it to your dreams to get the specific. And if you're doing both, you are developing expertise. So as you apply it to your dreams, you are making that anagogic movement from the lesser to the greater to the ultimate, which is your purpose. So if you've been doing that, or you want to start doing it now, congratulations. And to you we say...
I'm joy maxing, okay? And if I...
Duopoggers.
We're joy maxing and do it
off the perky, call me Kirky.
And we will call you Kirky.
No.
And now you know.
This is why this channel.
And we love this channel. So that's what we've been doing. That's why we've been doing it. That's the step. So therefore, with this understanding of the model, you could be able to judge where you're at, judge where you're stuck, and predict the future. Past or present, where you're at. Past, where are you stuck, carrying your beliefs from your past, and what's on the horizon, future. Just as as we saw in the text, someone with expertise can predict. Oh, what a coincidence. The conservatives, religious, and capitalists destroying the world and killing millions of innocent children and people and destroying the planet and murdering our species. That no one could have predicted, they say. Of course you can't, because you don't have understanding. You're in the lesser. You are a shitty person. You are, definition of shitty person, venerating your personal beliefs rather than moving anagogically to the model and to the ultimate. But because you are making that progress, you can make that prediction. What will follow in your life, in your relationships, in your death and reincarnation, if you stay here, what will happen for you if you continue reading, and what will happen for you if you apply that sameness to your difference. Will you be able to fulfill your purpose, completing your cycles of reincarnation in a single lifetime by having A, this book to read, B, this channel to reflect on the book with, and C, dreams every night. It's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win. So that's that's your future. You could see your fate and your, well, I don't like using the word destiny, but our highest purpose and ultimate function. Because there are some jerks using the word destiny. Fuck them. So then they can go to hell.
Freaks.
So our problems or fate and our ultimate purpose, the two things, are to escape our fate and reach our ultimate purpose. So, this is the general, or this is the big scope. That's the big picture. Once again, seeing more about the nature of life itself and human life and intelligent life. So it's the kind of learning you can take with you anywhere. But also, we can see some standards for making prediction. When we go back to next episode, the specific dialectic applied to the specific dialectic and analogy used to make to do dream analysis, you know exactly what you're doing now. You are doing analogy. Let's get my red pen. You're doing analogy. Jesus.
You're a little bitch-ass baby.
What? Calm down.
These absolute dullards, borderline chimps, want to kiss a fox.
Bitch.
Bitch. So we're using analogy in our dreams. We are applying the dialectic structure in our dreams. We are engaged in true self-reflection. We are recognizing the nature of our problems as a cycle of problems, which is a fake ousia. We can recognize we've been stuck in a fake analogy in our dream analysis. That's the source of our problems. It has been not only the principle of our life, but our goal. So the axiom that has motivated everything we do, every relationship, has been to seek an opportunity to play this to your partner, to your kids, or to whoever you have power over. So that's how we are not only suffering injustice ourselves, the source of our anger, but doing it, being unjust, the source of our own injustice, whether we like it or not. But, you know, it's not a blame game, it's an understanding game. You're here for a reason. Just as, given your past learning and experience in this lifetime and many reincarnations, you are exactly where you should be. There's an inherent justice to the problems you're currently having and the place that you reincarnated into. So it's not a blame game or a punishment game or a shame game. But you can recognize through your dream analysis what you've been doing and who you've been copying. So we're taking all this to our dream analysis that we've been working on the last few episodes. You can see therefore what will be the standard to see whether you're free. Can you address your problem and your earliest teachers in this kind of a way? Therefore, are you demonstrating the principle of justice and excellence? And if you seek to address your earliest teachers in this way, not for how they're going to listen or pay attention, because you can't help them.
You're not going to magically force someone to want to get better.
You have to come to that conclusion yourself. You have to want to get better.
They have to want to. So it's not about changing them. That's bullshit. It's about demonstrating that your goal is the principle of justice and excellence. That's the axiom of Philodianoia that you are doing. So therefore we know why, as we go back to our dream analysis next episode, we'll know why this is the standard. We'll know the significance of what we're doing, that's true, and the significance of how we're moving from what's false to the true through this activity of midwifery and dream analysis we've been nailing down. And we can see that it's dialectic structure using analogies. Therefore, we're learning the true logos to see the inherent intelligibility in our problems while participating in the inherent intelligibility of excellence, so we can be recognizing what is the principle for us benefiting. We have been ourselves, therefore, through dream analysis, using the specifics, guided by the midwifery, the dream analysis, to make the anagogic use of analogy to go to principles to benefit. We have been therefore participating through dream analysis, midwifery, use of dialectic and analogy. We've been participating in the inherent intelligibility. That's what has benefited us. So, how am I benefiting so much from dream analysis? This, you're participating in the inherent intelligibility. And then as we go through that, not only everything in this category we are doing, everything in this category we're discovering through our dream analysis, but at the same time, every step of the way we can be reflecting on the ultimate. What does it say about our dream maker? What does it say about dreams itself? What does it say about our ultimate purpose? So we're not just doing these two, the greater and lesser in dreams, we can wonder about the creator and artisan. And now we have a structure and standard from this map and our use of analogy to put that map into an analogy. We can understand why we care about reflecting on our dreams, which means as you go through this process and become free and develop expertise, you can yourself participate in the anagogic analogy, the true teaching, the true Dharma, and facilitate dream analysis to other people. And if you're lucky, like if you're in where the Golden West was, if you're in Cali, maybe people will buy you a lovely lunch, as they did me back in the day. As you can do it to others. Apply the dialectic sameness through the midwifery difference to benefit them practicing your art, the art we're here to master. But also by having this analogy of the lesser to greater to ultimate, you can appreciate why at the end of or at some point during your dream analysis talk with them, you can appreciate why it's worth asking them to reflect on the dreams when they have an insight to either their excellence or their problem, where they're at, where they're stuck. You can say, hey, what does that say about dreams? Aren't dreams interesting? Pierre would say things like, oh, there's nothing meaningful in dreams. And the other person would laugh, oh yes there is, Pierre, are you silly duffer? Dreams are just chemicals squirting like I learnt in school. No, Pierre, you're silly. Dreams are just electrons firing, making sense of the day. Isn't that what they tell you on some website? No, Pierre, you're silly. I got a profound insight into my problems or my excellence. Oh my goodness. So these sorts of questions you can use, and now you know why. You're directing them to, in the process, to their problems, the C, the excellence that you're doing, the B, but also the A term, the ultimate standard. For there to be a greater and lesser reflection, must there be some standard, some principle or ultimate thing that we're moving towards. And to the extent we participate in it, the inherent intelligibility of the self-logos, to that extent we can make that analogical jump and move. The Mario jump and the Mario double jump. Some games you can do a double jump. Mario Galaxy. Oh, you do a double jump in Mario Galaxy to get the star. Very pertinent. Hooray. So, self-ousia. You're reflecting on the dream maker. Not just your functioning of mind or your functioning of belief. The dream maker itself. You're encouraging self-ousia. When you're asking questions about the dream maker, you are encouraging self-logos, which is the principle and standard for all the other things in your own life and in reality and in creation. In any universe, any dimension, any time, any species, it's the nature of it being the principle or axiom. And as you do it and encourage that reflection, you are yourself using that principle in your own life, turning that principle into an axiom. Axiom has the implication of it's like a not a catchphrase, but a way of being as well as a principle to live by. Worth it? Does it highlight the stakes of learning, of what we've been doing, of this reading? Does it highlight the stakes of what we've been doing in figuring out the dialectic of dream analysis? Does it motivate you? Is it kind of like a standing back and seeing the whole of it? Yeah, my problems suck when I'm in them. And it can be frustrating and challenging and lonely at times. Being in Australia. To develop the excellence, to learn something new, and scary. I have to develop courage. But does seeing the whole of it, the ultimate, help you see there's an inherent justice, beauty, purpose, meaning, significance behind all of it? Does that inspire you? Emma?
Honestly, I feel really inspired.
Hooray! We can't do better than that on our random sound drops. I think we'll call it there. Hooray! Are you inspired? Is it worth it? Seeing it as a whole, is it significant? Not just in your journey, but what it would be like to encourage the same questions on the specifics and the general, on the specific dream and on the dream maker itself? Are you encouraging that double jump to the ultimate when you think about the dream maker itself? You can do both. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. Why do you need 50 bananas? So many bananas.
So many bananas. 50 bananas. When you think about it, 50 bananas is really so many bananas. That's absolutely true. And you get so many dreams. So you'll have a bunch of dreams tonight and become more curious about them. And as we are nailing down the understanding of that greatest art, we have some more context for it to both go through the courage and curiosity and perplexity required to learn the dialectic of dream analysis, but also to say no, say get out of here, say
the hell's wrong with you people, you sick freaks?
What the hell wrong with you, you sick freaks, to say
If you're experiencing a mental health episode,
no.
You just attacked my person.
Okay, calm down. To say get out of here, freaks, to the counterattacks. The things that say give up. The things that say don't challenge your old teachers. Don't challenge my beloved images of my fake gurus. You can see the injustice you're in and the injustice you're doing to overcome or challenge, become bigger than, to become greater than those lesser voices. And we have to do both. Address the false and do the true until we bring it together into a one principle standard, and that inspires Emma.
they're secretly turned on by it.
And she's also turned on by it.
Some goons and some gooners and some
goons and
weirdos.
Some weirdos there.
Goon.
Exciting? Worth it? Can you build these analogies yourself? Don't just copy me. Do it yourself. Put it on the fridge. Frame it and put it next to your solo leveling poster. I'm going to get another one. Anyway. Exciting, fun, cool, worth doing, and exciting that we're going to jump back into figuring out the structure of dream analysis more next time. The dialectic, the double dialectic, double jump. Each dialectical category has its own dialectic, and that's why it's taken us some time and required us to do these pauses and reflections to see what we need to see to go through it. It's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win.
thank you for joining me. I appreciate those who are here having a listen, and those who stopped in. If you want to donate to the channel, there is a link below. That is appreciated if you have the means and you like what we do here. If you want a link to the text that we've been reading, there's a PDF below, or you could buy the book. You can follow along on Twitch. You can join the Discord, and you'll get a notification when we go live. And I drop essays on there every now and again, and we chat and share art and stuff as well. You can, if you want to talk more about this and listen to some music, I have a music channel on Twitch, Jed Phoenix Music. You can check that out, have a listen, and enjoy your dreams tonight. Pay attention to them and become curious. See you in the next one. Bye.